Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I'd like to begin by thanking Rabbi and Cantor Keel for inviting me to speak with you as part of this year's Cancer Awareness Shabbat service. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Aric Attas. I'm a two-time cancer survivor and an artist. Perhaps I am a two-time cancer survivor because I'm an artist. I thrive on sharing the healing power of creativity with others through my artwork, music, workshops, and sharing in moments like this. When I first spoke to Cantor Keel about tonight, she asked me to explore how spirituality can help us cope with isolation. In order to do that, I'd like to share a few stories as examples, and I encourage you to consider your own life and amplify those experiences where you felt the type of connection I'm going to speak about. I believe we are all creative beings, and that with some focused intention, creativity, and courage, we can overcome any obstacle. Conversations through time and space, how spirituality can help us cope with isolation. I first became aware of the ability to connect with something greater than myself as a college student studying artists whose work inspired me. While researching their work, and more importantly, why they made it, I discovered a deep sense of connection. Even though I'd never met these artists, and many of them were already dead, I felt like I had a bond with them. We were working in different times, different places, and even different mediums, but we were interested in the same questions, interested in exploring similar ways of understanding the world. In so doing, all of us were tapping into something greater than ourselves. This was a powerful feeling. Sitting quietly by myself, reading biographies and autobiographies in the college library, I felt like I was part of the vibrant conversations that had taken place in Paris or New York City or California decades earlier. It was pretty cool. Years later, while in graduate school, one of my mentors told us that she often thought of her work as a conversation through time and space with the people who inspired her. I love this phrase, and have adopted it in my own approach to creating. After college, I began seeking a more meaningful connection to Judaism than the one I had formed in my childhood. I was feeling the need to find a spiritual voice of my own, and so I began reading books that focused on the spiritual aspects of Judaism rather than topics like the Holocaust or the history of Israel or the prayer service, things that were covered in Hebrew school. As I read about Kabbalah and contemplated the meaning behind the words, I discovered that same place of connection, that place of having conversations through time and space. With a little imagination, I found myself connecting to rabbis, sages, and Jewish philosophers as they pondered profound subjects like the creation of the universe, our role in it, and how to relate to God. Along the way, I discovered that having conversations through time and space is actually a Jewish thing. I would even suggest that these conversations are an essential element of Jewish practice. A good example is that of the festival of Passover. Each year, as we read the Haggadah, we are encouraged to imagine the Passover story not just as something that happened to our ancestors in a distant place, in a faraway place, in a distant time, but also as something relevant to us in the present moment. We're even given a Seder plate as a tool to help us connect to the sweat and tears and labor of our people. It's very beautiful. By encouraging us to engage in these conversations Judaism remains a truly living, breathing religion. Now you may be asking yourself, so how does this tie into cancer? Well, in July of 2014, I was diagnosed with cancer for a second time. It had been 13 years since I'd survived non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and now I was facing stage 4 oral cancer. That was pretty terrifying. A little over a month after having about a third of my tongue removed, along with all the lymph nodes on the left side of my neck, I began an intense 6-week radiation treatment program at the Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center in Miami. And I started that 2 days after celebrating my son Aaron's bar mitzvah right here. It's kind of a wonderful moment to think of that time. Treatments were scheduled 5 days a week, so commuting wasn't an option. Some amazing friends of ours let me live in their condo in Miami while Annabelle and our 4 children stayed in Vero so that they could go to school and work as normal. I'm so grateful to all of them for their love and support, and all of you too. I was a few weeks into my treatment when the high holidays arrived. Things were getting pretty rough. By Yom Kippur, I had a mouthful of intensely painful sores and was forced to survive on a liquid diet. Although Rabbi had given me the names of several congregations that I might be able to attend, I was in considerable pain and just wasn't up to the adventure. Instead, I drove myself over to Miami Beach, Maxor in hand, with the intention of praying in nature at the beach. As it turned out, nature had other plans, and the light rain began shortly after I arrived. I considered giving up and going home, but chose instead to sit in my car parked on Ocean Drive, where I continued to read through the service. As time passed, I began sensing an opening of my heart and an opening of my mind. I felt a warm connection to my parents, my congregation here in Vero Beach, and Jews around the world who would be reciting the same prayers that day. The more I read and contemplated the meaning of the prayers, the more deeply connected I felt. I was completely alone, in pain, praying in my car parked on the side of the road, yet feeling completely connected to my people and to my God. It was a moving experience that will stay with me forever. While becoming more and more immersed in this sense of connection, I reached Psalm 93. To give you a sense of what I experienced that day, I invite you to hear the words of the psalm as translated in our Maxor and take them to heart. I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that and take a nice deep breath, letting it out with a long exhale, releasing any stress or anxiety or tension you may be feeling. Let's try that again, breathing deep into your belly, as deeply as you comfortably can, and letting it out with another long exhale. Feel the tension leaving your body. One more time. Deep breath in, and a nice full release as you exhale. Sitting quietly and breathing, listening to the psalm. God acts within every moment and creates the world with each breath. He speaks from the center of the universe in the silence beyond all thought. Mightier than the crash of a thunderstorm, mightier than the roar of the sea, is God's voice silently speaking in the depths of the listening heart. Taking a moment to absorb these words, imagine that the rain has intensified, and now it has started to thunder and lightning as if on cue, as I experienced that day on Miami Beach. Breathe and feel your own personal connection to the spiritual, however you sense it. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes, bring yourself back into the room, and just take a moment to notice how you feel. Know that this space is always available to us. By focusing on our kavanah, our intention, on God acting within every moment, creating the world within each breath and the silence beyond all thought, we can experience a deep connection, a sense of wholeness and peace, no matter how alone or isolated we may be. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
I might have thrown out my back earlier in the week, so if you see me moving slowly, that's all that's happened. And as we say a kol hakavod and yesher koach to Aric, and one thing I do want to point out, if you look up just above, now it's Mark's head, what do you see there? You see the translation of Oseh Shalom. And so, Aric, even as you were offering that wisdom to us, even as you were sharing that with us, I kept hearing your words and looking above your head, thinking, may the one who brings peace on high bring peace to us and to all Israel as we say amen. And that's what you were trying to do, to share your experience with all of us, bringing us into your experience and then taking your experience into all of ours, taking those threads, weaving them together, and creating something of an incredible shalom, incredible wholeness. As Mark Jaffe stands before us, we have an amazing moment for healing, or an amazing moment to offer, I should say, to offer healing. We will have a time to remember those who have died, but we now take a moment to think of those who are in need of God's healing and comfort. And first we start with this on this Shabbat, acknowledging those who have had to struggle with the challenge of cancer. And so first I invite any who are comfortable, who are survivors, to stand. Any who have been caregivers, to stand. Any who are offering prayers for family or friends who are currently struggling with cancer. And if you are on Zoom with us and you want to chat the name of someone to acknowledge, please feel free to use the chat function for that. As we are here on this Shabbat with those who are sending out their healing and comfort, we have these words of healing.
Before I read this, I just have to say...
And speak real loud, Mark.
So before I read this, I just want to say to everybody here and in Zoom world, we all know someone that's dealt with cancer, that's battled cancer, that may have won or lost. It's something that is prevalent in the world that we live in today, and we need to have compassion for all those people that are experiencing that right now. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, his wife, his mother of his child, is battling 3 different types of cancer as we speak in this moment. She had a chemo treatment this past weekend and had a side effect of seizures. So just think about her. I'll be thinking about her as I read this. So We can pray. We can't pray that God will make our lives free of problems. We can't ask God to make us and those we love immune to disease. We can't ask that God weave a magic spell around us so that bad things will happen only to others and never to us. But people who pray for courage, for strength to bear the unbearable, for the grace to remember what they have left instead of what they have lost, very often find their prayers answered. They discover that they have more strength, more courage than they ever knew themselves to have. We cannot escape suffering, but we may find God in spite of it, and even within it. We have to seek God in all our ways. And if the God we find is not always the God we want to find, we must learn to live the knowledge. For you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise with the healing of its wings. May it be your will, Eternal One, our God and God of our ancestors, speedily to grant a perfect healing of body and soul to all who are sick.
As we say Amen,